Tyler Hero or Jordan Poole? Door number 1 or door number 2? It's time to choose your own adventure. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Data Dive powered by Market Movers. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot. And you know, I'll always say that the 90s were the best years for sports cards. They were also the climax of the choose your own adventure books. And as a child, I loved deciding which path to take and anxiously flipping to page 86 to see if I moved ahead or got jabbed in the back by a creepy troll. And today, as an adult, sometimes the sports card speculation game feels a bit like the same thing, like a choose your own adventure. So who would you choose? Justin Herbert, turn to page 99. Shohei Ohtani, turn to page 233. Bol, page 355. You fell off a cliff, start the book over. And that's the name of the game today. I'm laying out some of the different scenarios and asking you what you would do. And as a way for all of you to go ahead and scrutinize me months down the road, or even today, I'll even give you my picks for fun, not as advice. And before I do this episode is brought to you by Market Movers, now with 870,000 cards in our database, spanning from 1909 to 2022, and from baseball all the way to Yu-Gi-Oh! Check out our brand new pricing plan starting as low as $9.99 per month. Visit marketmoversapp.com to find out which plan might be right for you. Now, let's find the wizard. All right, so listen, I have to do this every episode. I'll still get the trolls down in the comments. Get it? Trolls, adventure. Anyway, I'm going to review some cards and players that are of comparable value or maybe have some kind of compelling shared narrative. And then I'm going to ask you, who do you choose? I'm going to give you my pick. I'm going to share my thought process. And then I'm sure I'm going to be wrong about some of these things in the future. Nobody bats 1,000. I'm not pumping. I'm not dumping. I'm just trying to have some fun and get your thoughts going. And the more than anything, I'm hoping to hear your thoughts down in the comments so that I can read those and we can have some fun conversation. So let's get right into the treasure. And the first thing that I did is I just went to our price movements by card. And you know that in order to kind of find comparisons, price comparisons, things where we can look at opportunity cost, starting with a baseline staple card, something like the Prism Silver and a PSA 10 for basketball cards is what I like to do. It doesn't mean that I'm saying go buy Prism Silvers, fixate on Prism Silvers. They're a really good card to use for comparison's sake because they typically sell frequently enough. They have, a relatively high enough pop, although the old ones are more short printed and so on and so forth. So this is a good starting point. And I like to come to this page and just look at these things and say, you know, what catches my eye? Look at the data and see what stands out. So let's just start going down this page and take a look. Now, the first thing that I see here that's really interesting, you've got Kyrie Irving, 2012 Prism Silver, the first year of Prism, PSA 10, pop 25. Most recently sold for $23.75. And just below that in the next closest price in the last 30 days is Luka in his 2018 Prism Silver rookie card, $22.47. The difference, instead of being pop 25, it's pop 21.43. So you've got a factor of, many times over on how many of those cards are in circulation, and yet Luka's right there beneath Kyrie on that price. Now what we know is Luka, that price has come drastically down. I think at its high point it was like 9,500, 9K, somewhere in that ballpark a year and a half ago. Way down since then. But it's interesting to see that a guy like Luka, who I am personally very high on in terms of his future in this league and the role that he's going to have to sort of carry the torch. But Kyrie, a guy who's super popular, or rather super talented, but whose popularity has taken a hit with some of his antics and all the different things that we've seen from Kyrie over the last few years especially. I think that's why you see this price comparison. Very low supply on the Kyries, much higher supply on the Lukas, similar price point. You got to see what Luka's going to do in the future. So that stands out to me, and I think we'll get into those two cards a little bit more. Scrolling down here, interesting to see Zion Williamson at third on this list. Now $450, $460 higher than Ja Morant. Earlier this year, Ja had passed Zion. So this is really interesting, and that's another thing we're going to take a look at. And then scrolling down a little bit more, funny thing here to see Markieff Morris, $750. I think this is like a Pop 7 card. In fact, I updated that yesterday, Pop 7. I think this has everything to do with set collectors. You see the same thing with Manute Bol's 1987 Fleer card, not his 86 rookie, but his 87. Super short supply on PSA 10, so you see these insane premiums. Same thing with like PSA 10 97 metal basketball cards. So that's why that card sold for that much, and I do believe it's probably a real sale. And then kind of scrolling down, you got Trey all the way down here at $558, getting no love. Trey Young, I think that's kind of a crime, to be totally honest. And then you've got Shea, you got Halliburton right below that, but that again I think has everything to do with a low population so far at 41. I probably wouldn't be touching that card at all personally. Jalen Brown way down on the list. You know, if you look at Jalen Brown and you look at Jason Tatum as players, their stats are not drastically different. They're really not. And yet that subtle difference and the representation that Tatum is the clear number one on that team in most fans' eyes and most experts' eyes, I think that's where this separation comes from, is just like, what do people see as potential? And then kind of scrolling down, we've got Garland and Tyler Hero and Jordan Poole all down here. So I want to take some of these cards and then I want to shift over and do some, like comparisons. We're going to get into some other sports too. So if you're not a basketball fan, stick with me because we are going to get into some other sports. I'm going to try to cover a little bit of everything. First thing I'm looking at here, choose your own adventure. Who do you want to choose? Somebody comes to you and they say, you've got, let's call it up to $1,600 that you can spend, but you got to pick one of these players here. So you can have Anthony Edwards, PSA 10 Prism Silver, Pop 791 as of right now. We know I'm sure there's a lot more of them out there. This card last sold $999. Then we've got Ja Morant at $1,100. That's come down significantly. You've got Tatum at a little over $1,100, $1,135. You've got LaMelo Ball all the way up at $1,475. But again, this has everything to do with the pop count. Pop 164 on the LaMelo Ball. This is a card that is slowly trickling up in terms of population, but had centering issues, quality control issues, and that's why you see LaMelo's at Pop 164, whereas Anthony Edwards is at Pop 791. It was a QA issue with the production of LaMelo's card. So interesting to see how that will play out over time if he really has a good career. You've got Trey Young all the way down here. I threw him on here because to me, Trey belongs in this conversation. There's no reason. Actually, right now, Trey Young is for sure a better player than LaMelo Ball. And I would say for sure a better player than Anthony Edwards. I don't know about the upside and the potential, but I would for sure rank him in terms of what he's done and contributed above those two guys right now. And yet his price all the way down here at $557. Part of that, I think, has to do with the population again, 2208. So if you're looking at that, what we call market cap, and I can kind of scroll down and show you that, you'll see Zion here, and then you'll see Trey at $1.2 million on his market cap, whereas LaMelo is all the way down at $242,000. So again, that comes into play. And then you've got Zion, who has emerged all the way back to the top. It's like Zion mania is coming all over again. There's photos of him. He's lost weight. He looks totally shredded. They're saying he's going to be ready to play. Everybody's really hyped up about Zion again. And frankly, his performance 2 years ago when he played, I think it was 61 games, 27 points per game, true shooting percentage of effective field goal percentage, like 61%, basically doing things that nobody had done since Wilt Chamberlain. And so I think people are starting to go crazy for him. But what would I do here? When I'm looking at these cards, who am I going to choose? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not choosing LaMelo for a few reasons. I think that price is baked too high. I think there's going to be more PSA 10s coming. I don't think that the Hornets are going to be contenders in the East, and I think it's going to take some time. I think LaMelo has a really bright future, but I don't think that the eyes and spotlights are going to be on him in a season when the parity in the NBA is going to be probably higher than ever. So I'm going to turn this card off. Looking at the rest of this list, I'm not going to buy Zion right now. Not with him being at the height of that, not with the risk around the injuries. I think there was a runway up until this point where Zion's prices made sense, where maybe buying him made a lot more sense. A lot of people have been doing that. I know Jeff's been taking some chances on Zion. I'm not going to buy Zion right now with him being the most expensive from this group. It doesn't make any sense to me. So we're down to 4. I like Anthony Edwards. I still want to see more from him. I think he has incredible potential to be this great scoring guard, in the mold of so many who have come before him. There's kind of some D-Wade type flashes maybe. He's got tenacity. He's got a fun personality when he does interviews. And I personally really high on the Rudy Gobert pickup. I know a lot of people think that they overpaid for it. I thought they kind of got a steal, frankly. Remains to be seen how that plays out, but I don't think Rudy Gobert's impact on games can be understated. I'm going to wait. I'm kind of in a waiting pattern on Anthony Edwards. That leaves us with Ja, Tatum, and Trey Young. And in this case, I do love Trey. I think the Hawks are going to be better. I think he and DeJounte Murray will work really well together, but I'm going to take Trey off of here, and that leaves me down to Ja and Tatum. And I think in this case, Ja has a lot of flash. He's got a lot of potential. The injury risk concerns me. Now, the one thing we didn't talk about here was the time frame. Like, how long are we saying? Are we saying we want to sell this right before the season starts, during the season, within the next year? I don't know. I'm just thinking about this kind of like more like big picture. Like if I had to take this card and say, put it in a safe for 3 years, and if that's the case, I think Tatum's got the body, the frame, the athleticism to play a game that hopefully won't, lead to him being injured as frequently, whereas I just keep having those horrible flashbacks with Morant to Derrick Rose. They're such similar players in terms of how they attack the basket, so I'm taking Ja Morant down and I'm looking at Jason Tatum here. And just to solidify this, I'm going to bump over and go, look at where this card was in the last 90 days, all the way up at 2K when the Celtics were making their finals push, and it has come down. It's starting to creep back up a little bit here. So you could have had this card for under $1,000 a few weeks ago, right around the National. I think it's going to start to creep back up, and I think Tatum is here to stay in the NBA. So that's my thought process on that. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Which of these guys would you choose to try to get the treasure and choose your own adventure? Let's go look at the next one. And worth mentioning here, I wanted to show this. This is just really interesting with the Zion versus Ja thing. You've seen me do it in the past. I love going over to our intelligence reports and the player ratios to show you this comparison. For the first year and a half of their careers, Zion was like 2-to-1 Ja prices, incrementally coming down to where it crossed this last year, and Ja at one point was 1.5x Zion across all their rookie cards. That number is down to like 1.21 now, but in this particular case, Zion Silver, which is a higher population card, not by a ton, but is a higher population card too, has gone up in price above Ja's card, and we saw the prices here. I'll jump over to the stats. Again, it was, $1,100 versus $1,500. So you're talking about a 40% difference in price now. But the interesting thing is that's not the case across all of their cards. Silvers tend to be the leading indicators. We talk about this a lot, meaning they're the first things to sort of move and change direction. They move quickly up and down. They're the first ones to go. So in this case, if you're still lagging behind and you think Zion's going to be better this year and command a higher price premium, then I might be looking at other cards, not Zion Silver, but the ones where Ja's still more expensive, expecting and waiting for that to equalize. If you think that Ja is going to be, coming back and rising to the top, then maybe his silver is a good buy. People are always going to be transacting those. You can see a lot of them have sold in the last 90 days for both of these guys. The last year. But there's sort of this interesting phenomenon, right, where they crossed and now Ja has come down. Even if we look at like the last 30 days, you can see, these guys seem to both be equalizing and sort of setting pace. So this season will be really interesting. I'm much higher on the Grizzlies to repeat and have a great season and push in the playoffs than I would be the Pelicans, but that all remains to be seen. All right, here's another basketball comparison, one more basketball comparison. I actually put a poll of this on Instagram. I love trying to come up with decisions that are tough to make, ones where I don't even necessarily know which decision I would make, and put it up on IG and get feedback from everybody. Last I checked, I had asked which of these guys has the most potential. So that's a slightly different question from who's going to have the best career, who's going to win a championship first, who could win an MVP, who's going to be better the next 3 years. I just asked who has the most potential. And of these 4 guys, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he got the most responses at I want to say 39%. The next closest was Jordan Poole, I think 31%. Garland was right behind him, so they were close. And Tyler Hero was 5%. So really interesting because a few years ago, it was Tyler Hero mania. His rookie year, people were going crazy for him. His prices were well over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's and well over these guys. Now people not so high on him, even after a solid season last year and running away with that Sixth Man of the Year award. I like Darius Garland. I think he's the closest thing we've seen to Chris Paul since Chris Paul. If you look at their numbers through these junctures in their career, they are very similar. Everything, assist numbers, turnover numbers, scoring efficiency, everything is very comparable for those guys. And Garland kind of reminds me of Chris Paul. I think if he can continue to develop, he'll be a really important point guard in the NBA for a long time. I don't know what his super upside is. And if he can't get to that level of Chris Paul eventually, I don't know how much ceiling he has. So I'm going to take Garland off this list. Hero, I just need to see more consistency from Hero. I want to see another strong season. I want to know if he can be a starter and play in that same role. I want to see if he can actually develop into a number one. To me, he strikes me as the type of guy who could just be a long-term sixth man, incredible player off the bench, in the mold of Jamal Crawford and Lou Williams and other guys that came before him. So I'm not going with Tyler Hero. Now this is really tricky for me. I'm extremely high on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The one piece that kind of concerns me about him is he flashy enough? Does he do enough that's exciting on the court? He's smooth, he dictates the pace, he plays within himself, he can shoot, he's really long. He does a little bit of everything, and he's got very well-rounded stats. He doesn't have a super dynamic personality. I look at Jordan Poole. I was not a Jordan Poole believer at all until last year when he started starting for the Warriors and stringing together solid game after solid game. And in some of those games in different series last year in the playoffs, he was the reason they were winning those games. Like, he was the guy scoring efficiently. I really like Jordan Poole. I'm a Jordan Poole believer. I think eventually he's going to be a starter in this league. He's got a really fun personality. And for the price difference right here, and if we look at these two cards and see kind of where they've been, Poole is the one who's come down the farthest compared to where he was earlier today. I don't expect 2021 numbers coming back anytime soon in terms of like the high point way back when, but I don't see any reason why Poole during the season and pushing, the Warriors are good, or eventually if he gets another a big contract or something, why he can't rise back up to this level. So in this case, I'm going to select Jordan Poole with the upside over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the price difference right now. So again, let me know down in the comments which of these guys would you choose. All right, let's change gears a little bit and jump over here. Just as another mention, I was going with Jordan Poole. I wouldn't go with the silver, even though the silver's been rising. If I had the money and I was going to spend $600, $700, $800 on a Jordan Poole card, I'd be looking at color matches. I think those have the long-term potential to have staying power. They're lower population, and you have some variety here with the blues to $199, the blue ice to $99, and the unnumbered but very short printed blue shimmers, as well as the fast breaks. So kind of take your pick, find one on a good deal. I would buy any of these if I were going after a Jordan Poole card and wanted to hold him for a little while. All right, jumping over. Let's talk about hockey, I love my friends in Canada from the Great White North. They're always asking for more hockey content. I've said it before, I am not a hockey expert. I am learning and studying and talking to many of you and our coworkers who love hockey and trying to learn more. So if I ever say anything stupid about hockey, you can give me a hard time down in the comments, but I like to give it some representation and show it some love here. And I do know these players. So I'm gonna actually start at the last average sale price. These ones are not comparable in price. This is all about like potential with sort of, let's call it a budget agnostic. Like, which ones do you think could go up and down the most? By looking at this list, these were some of the key names going into the playoffs last year, and I think will be going forward, many of them. Austin Matthews, obviously one of the three young top stars in the league right now, having sold for $1,400 recently. We've got Cale Makar here at $790, who was the hero of the Stanley Cup Finals. Connor McDavid getting bounced out yet again in spite of being the consensus best player in the NHL at $2,750. Then way down here, Johnny Gaudreau. Some people call him Goudreau, but I'm speaking French, it's Gaudreau. $195.50 here for Johnny. And then you've got Jonathan Uberdough, who obviously had the big trade this year, heading up to Calgary, I should say, from Florida, and switching places with Matthew Tkachuk, who went down to Florida at $176. And then finally, you've got Nathan MacKinnon, obviously one of the stars of the league too, incredible Scoring talent, $850. So looking at these guys, which one would I choose? And not being a hockey expert, but using what I know. I love Connor McDavid. I think he's got the most upside. He could see another price spike in the season, but his stuff has rebounded a little bit recently and has stayed kind of flat. I'm going to take him off the list. Looking at this list, Johnny Gaudreau, I'm not going to take him. He went to Columbus. I think that's kind of a black hole. It was sort of a weird move. I'm taking him off of this list, and I'm not going to be buying him. Looking at this, I like Tkachuk. I like everything I hear about him. I got a chance to watch him in the playoffs some. He's very tenacious. And as Leon from my team would say, he's cut from the same cloth as his dad. But I'm taking him off this list. And then same thing with Uberdough. I don't know that I believe in Calgary. I think he's a fantastic player. I want to see how he fits into their lines and how he plays up there. I'm taking him off. So what am I left with here? Well, I'm left with the favorites again going into next season. I think the Avalanche are at plus 550 to win and repeat the title next year. They obviously are going to have a great chance. The next closest is like a plus 900 and plus 1,000. So I'm going to keep these two guys on the list for that reason. I'm going to take Makar off because his stuff is actually held somewhat, relatively consistent. So if we come over here and I just look at this, let me go actually to the last 90 days, let's say, since the playoffs ended. And I'm looking at Makar here, and you can see his line is actually like overall trending up slightly. Now there's a dip here. If you can buy at a dip, maybe that's a good opportunity. But I'm going to take him off of this list. And then I'm looking at these two guys, and I'm saying, I might just flip a coin. McKinnon's stuff has come down so drastically over the last year. He's still a huge part of that team. The Avalanche are right there. But I think I would go with Austin Matthews of these guys because he's just like the favorite in Canada. He's plays for the Maple Leafs. He's a big deal. When Jeff went to the big convention in Toronto last year, everybody wanted Austin Matthews. I think he said he heard more Austin Matthews than McDavid. So I'm going to go with Austin Matthews here. And again, if we kind of zoom out and look at this card and kind of where it's been in its price trajectory, earlier this year he was hovering all the way up over $2,000 consistently. That card has come all the way down to $1,400. I think there's a buying opportunity there with a lot of rebound potential in this coming season, and I think there's more people getting into hockey in general, so they're going to gravitate toward the top 2 to 3 players in the league, Matthews being one of those guys. So that's my hockey take. Who do you choose from hockey? All right, couple more. Let's jump over here quickly. Let's talk some soccer. Again, not my expertise. I do love soccer. I like watching it. I know a fair amount about it, but I'm not an expert. I know all of these guys, and I pulled them together. We've got the World Cup coming up. Some of these players not in there. Erling Holland not in the World Cup, but he did just join Man City. Came out hot, should have had a hat trick. He looks like the real deal. Man City's going to be really tough in the Premier League, much to my chagrin as a Chelsea fan. Erling Holland, so we've got him here at this. There's various cards you could buy, but I picked his Topps Chrome Refractor, low population, 68, $845. Not a bad buy right now. I'm going to leave him there for now. Let's start actually at Christian Pulisic. He's got a handful of different rookie cards from 2016, a lot of them very low population. This card actually is PSA 10 field level silver, pop 19. I put this one on here, although it is less popular than his mezzanine level because that's the one with him in his USA kit. This has him in his Dortmund kit. So I'm actually going to take this one off. And the reason being, USA is plus 10,000 to win the World Cup. Pulisic's kind of, I don't know, he's not being set up for success in Tuchel's system with Chelsea. He might end up going, there's rumors that he might go somewhere else, Newcastle or Man U or somewhere else. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. I suppose if he does transfer into a strategy of formation that's going to work better for him and suit his strengths, he could see a big price spike even with the World Cup maybe not going the way the US would hope. But for now, I'm taking him off. I think there's a lot of hype and expectation into him because he's US, and I don't know how long that will sustain over time if he doesn't start to really shine and become one of the best players in the world. So let's take him off of there. Now, Brazil, actually the favorites to win the World Cup. I think they're plus 550, maybe plus 500. England plus 550, and France like plus 700. France, trying to repeat. I really like France. I'm not going to believe in England until they do it. I just feel like they're always coming up short and choking. So I'm looking at these players. I'm leaving Holland on here. I'm not going to go with Jude Bellingham because I don't see him being the focal point anytime soon. I want to see more. I want to see him develop more. Great young player, but I'm going to take him off of here. We've got Mbappe. I love him. France, I think he's the guy on that team. They have a ton of talent, but he is the guy, and he's one of the guys internationally in the young crowd. It's pretty much him and Holland, and then a lot of younger up-and-comers who are getting a lot of attention. Neymar, Brazil, man, I always think Brazil's going to do really well, and then they've come up short and come up short and come up short. I'm going to take Neymar off of here. I think things have kind of settled in with him. Even if they win the World Cup, unless he's like the hero, goes absolutely crazy, scores a bunch of goals and is the one who carries them, I don't see a lot happening with his prices. And now with him being on PSG, he's kind of, trapped beneath Mbappe and Messi, and I don't think he's going to shine anytime soon. I'm going to take him off. That's not to say I don't think he has potential long term, but I'm having to pick between all of these guys. Now, we've got Vini Jr. here. This is his PSA 10 Optic Holo, Pop 32. Much lower population. And by the way, I went with the Mbappe PSA 9 here because his PSA 10 is so much higher in price. I'm trying to kind of compare apples to apples here. We've got Foden, good young player. I'm not going to buy a Man City player if I don't have to. And if I do, it's probably going to be Holland or Kevin De Bruyne. So I'm going to take him off of this list. And I'm down to these three guys. So do I want somebody that's going to shine in World Cup, or do I want somebody who might shine in the Premier League? I'm going to take Holland off of this list right now, and I'm going to leave it down to these two guys. I do think Vinicius Jr. is a great talent. I'm a big fan of watching him. I like him. But I'm going to go with my guy, Mbappe here. He's got the 2017 Topps Chrome. He's got the 2018 World Cup Prisms. There's some different cards you can chase. You can go after Color Blast. There's a lot of options. For the price point, I like this PSA 9. And if I'm looking at the prices, let's go over the last 365 days. You can see this card has come down a lot. Overall, the curve isn't super steep downward, but where it is right now, most recently, at $661, I like France. I think they're going to make a big push, at least into the semis. And I think he's going to be a big part of that. And I think he's going to be a great player for a long time to come. So I'm going with Mbappe. Let me know down in the comments if you like soccer, how foolish you think I am, or who you would have gone with here. But pick one of these. Don't say no, forget about these guys and choose somebody else. Just pick one of the options I laid out. All right, last but not least, having a little bit of fun here. Looking at these players, and the prices are different. Oops, I actually chose the wrong price here. Let me correct this Kyrie Silver. I pulled the wrong one onto this. I wanted to get the PSA 10. There we go, that's why the price looks so different. So I'll just update my chart. There we go. Okay, so similar prices, kind of. So what do these guys have in common? Bo Bichette, Fernando Tatis, Dominguez, Durant, on and on. What do these guys have in common? Each of them is kind of this archetype of risk right now, right? If I'm looking at Jason Dominguez, what is he? He's all hype. You saw my video last week about prospecting. He is all hype right now. What about Fernando Tatis Jr.? Where is he? He's here. Suspended. Legacy, plus the injuries, but let's call it the suspension now. What does that do for him? Trout, injured again. Will he ever play again? Is he going to be the same? Is he still going to be Mike Trout? How many more games will he be able to play? Shifting over, Mahomes, I'll call it underperforming, which I think is a ridiculous label, but he's underperforming expectations because the expectation is literally win the MVP, break more records, and win the Super Bowl. That's the expectations for Patrick Mahomes at this point because he's set the bar so high for himself early in his career. He's kind of underperforming according to what people think, and it's going to be competitive in the AFC, so his prices are way down. Then we look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's just kind of become a jerk. He's become really unlikable, and that is so disappointing to me because when he was drafted by the Sonics and went to OKC, he was known as quiet, down-to-earth, humble, grateful, and he has totally let bitterness take him over. I hope he can change that someday. Maybe it won't be until he retires and can get some space between him and the Twitter haters. But Kevin Durant, he's kind of unlikable now. Bo Bichette is slumping. Way underperforming, but it's not just underperforming, it's slumping. It's like really bad. His numbers are, not anywhere close to what expectations should have been this year for him. He has a lot of errors. He's not doing well this season. Hoping to see him recover. And then finally, Kyrie Irving. I'm calling him like the wild card. It's just, I talked about it earlier, comparing him to Luka. You literally have no idea what you're going to get with Kyrie Irving. When he plays and his handles and his scoring and his streakiness, he's electric, and people start to go, man, I like this guy because he's fun. And then he does something, off the rails that makes you go, okay, I don't think I can invest in this guy. So looking at this list, which of these players, if you had to pick right now, would you be investing in it? I'm just going to cut to the chase for me, and it's Mahomes. For two reasons. I'm a Chiefs fan, and I'm a big Mahomes believer. I think long-term, he's going to be the guy from this era who has the most accolades, the most awards, the most Super Bowls, and the most stats piled up. He does things that none of these other guys can do, and none of them have done. And until somebody proves me otherwise, I'm going to go with Mahomes. Second on this list, I'm going with Trout. And then the rest of them, I'm not sure I would touch them right now, although I do think that Durant has a lot of potential long-term to see his prices come back up if he can get out of the spotlight with being nasty and crude and making ridiculous demands and just get back to playing or just retire and make the Hall of Fame. So that's my choice from this list. Won't get into any more detail, but I thought this is like a really fun comparison looking at all these prices. There's tons of risk, tons of upside. Would you be investing in buying Fernando Tatis Jr.? Do you think his Hall of Fame odds are totally shot at this point? Again, I'd love to hear all of this. Just let me know down in the comments and I'll try to respond to each of you. I do enjoy interacting. So that pretty much wraps it up for this week's video. Last week, the defenders of Bowman came out in waves. I think many of them may have missed the part in the video where I said I wasn't trying to criticize anyone or bash on prospecting. I was just explaining reasons why I personally don't like to do the baseball Bowman prospecting. That being said, there were a lot of fair critiques about the upside of Bowman, about hitting home runs of the best players, about how you would have made a ton of money if you bought that Julio Rodriguez card, the red to 5 way back when, or if you had pulled it from a box. And there's also certainly a lot of short-term profit that can be made. And that's what I think the emphasis is there. It's a short-term gamble. It's a game that many of us love to play. And finally, I must really apologize to Mr. Mark Appel for mispronouncing his name. Thank you to those of you who gently pointed that out down in the comments. So this week, I can't wait to read your thoughts down in the comments below. Which players are you choosing to carry you to the treasure at the end of the story? Be sure to let me know. And if you would, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon. And until next time, have fun choosing your own adventure.